The creature in the crate. The jungle was silent, but not in a peaceful way. Something heavy had crashed the night before, and the forest animals had not returned since. Smoke still rose in the distance where the skyship had fallen. No one from the nearby camps dared to go near it. No one, except Duran. He moved carefully, his boots sinking into the wet, mossy ground. The human scavenger had lived alone on this alien planet for 3 years. He knew its dangers: poisonous plants, razor-beaked birds, hunters that moved without sound. But danger also meant one thing: valuable things could be found. And a crashed cargo ship meant supplies, tech, or tradable parts. As he reached the wreckage, his eyes scanned the area. The ship was split open, metal torn like paper. It was still warm, which meant the crash had been recent. He stepped over broken wires and burning fuel tubes. Then he heard a soft sound, a weak cry, not human, not machine. He turned quickly, gun ready. The sound came again, from inside a half-buried crate marked Biosecure Level 6. The lock was broken. Carefully, Darren opened the lid. Inside was a small creature, no longer than his arm, covered in short, dark purple fur. It had a long tail, small claws, and bright silver eyes that glowed faintly. It was bleeding from its side, and one of its legs was twisted. It looked up at him, not with fear, not with anger, but curiosity. Poor little guy, Darren whispered. He checked the tag on the crate. It had no name, only codes, military codes. He should have closed the lid right there. He should have left, but he didn't. Instead, he wrapped the creature in his coat and walked back through the jungle. Darren lived in a small hut made from scrap metal and solar panels. It wasn't much, but it had power, clean water, and tools. He laid the creature on a soft bed of cloth, cleaned the wound, and fed it drops of nutrient gel. At first, it didn't eat, but when he turned his back, the gel was gone. "You're shy," Darren said with a small smile, "but not weak." The next day, it stood. The next day, it followed him. By the end of the week, it slept beside his bed, curled like a cat, breathing softly. He named it Rue. But the jungle was watching. Not far from his camp, a young alien scout named Velsha saw strange prints near the river, 3-toed, sharp-clawed. She told the tribal elders. They said nothing. But that night, they sent a silent hawk into the sky with a message. Something old had returned. One evening, as Duran repaired his solar panel, he saw Rue staring into the trees, completely still, eyes glowing. "What is it, girl?" he asked. Then, with lightning speed, Rue ran into the jungle. "Rue!" He chased after her, branches cutting his arms. He found her minutes later, covered in blood. A large forest wolf lay dead at her feet. Its throat had been torn open, its body still warm. Darren stepped back. Rue looked at him, blood dripping from her jaw, eyes glowing brighter than before. But then, she lowered her head, as if ashamed. He knelt beside her. "It attacked you, didn't it?" he said softly. Rue did not respond but leaned into his chest, shivering. He held her. That night, Darren didn't sleep. The next morning, tribal drums echoed in the distance, a message, a warning. They knew something had awakened, something that should not have lived. And in the quiet jungle, Rue opened her eyes. They were no longer silver. They were golden, and they were changing. Fangs in the shadows. The sun barely rose over the jungle canopy. Thick fog rolled between the trees like silent ghosts. Darren stood outside his hut, staring at the forest where Rue had disappeared last night. She had returned at dawn. Her body was shaking. Her claws were sharper. Her fur had started to grow, darker. And her eyes, they weren't silver anymore. They were golden now, bright, intelligent, a little scary. Daran poured water into a metal bowl. Rue sniffed it, then drank slowly, carefully. No wild movements, no playful jumps like before. Something was changing, but Daran didn't say a word. He just sat down beside her, sharpening his hunting knife. The silence between them said everything. That day, Daran tried to test her. He tossed a ball made of cloth like he used to do when she was small. She didn't chase it. He showed her tricks she once loved. She didn't care. But when a bird landed nearby and let out a soft chirp, Rue's ears twitched. Her head turned sharply. Her body froze. In one jump, she crossed the camp and caught the bird mid-air. Without even making a sound, she brought it to Daran, alive. He stared at her. "You're hunting, not killing." She gently placed the bird on the ground. It flew away. That night, the jungle wasn't quiet anymore. Daran heard screams. Not human, not animal. Something else. Sharp and filled with terror. He climbed the watchtower he built and looked through his old binoculars. Down by the river, 3 massive creatures lay dead. They were hunters from the jungle, long-legged beasts with bone spikes. No animal ever attacked them. No animal survived them, but now they were dead. Ripped open, and beside them he saw footprints, clawed, deep, fresh. Too small for the beasts, too large for Rue. The next morning, Velsha, the alien scout, arrived at the tribal palace. She stood before Princess Ashera, a young and fierce warrior princess with silver war paint on her cheeks and a long blade at her hip. Velsha bowed. "My princess, the creature has returned." Ashera narrowed her eyes. "Where?" Velsha whispered. "In the human's jungle. He hides it." Ashera clenched her fists. Her father, the late king, had died fighting one of those same creatures. Decades ago, her tribe had lost many warriors. Now this human had raised one, then the human has raised death itself, she said coldly. Back at the hut, Daran noticed something strange in the trees, spears, markings, warnings from the nearby tribe, a sign that said, "Leave now or burn." He sighed. "They know about you, girl," he muttered. Rue stood on the roof of the hut, crouched like a panther, watching, listening. That evening, while checking traps, Daran heard soft voices. Tribal hunters. They were nearby, moving through the jungle like shadows. He ran back to the camp, but he was too late. 3 hunters stood outside his hut, pointing their weapons at Rue. One held a net. One had fire. "Step away," Daran shouted. "She's not dangerous. She is cursed," one yelled. "She will kill us all." Rue didn't move. She just stared. One hunter threw the net. It never landed. In a flash, Rue vanished from sight. Screams followed. The net burned. The weapons fell. And the 3 hunters were on the ground, scratched but alive, paralyzed with fear. Rue stood above them, breathing heavily, golden eyes glowing like twin suns. Daran slowly stepped forward. "Rue, stop." She looked at him, and, for the first time, she listened. Later that night, Daran sat by the fire. Rue curled beside him, her breathing calm. "She's not a monster," he whispered to the stars. "She saved me. She spared them. Why can't they see that?" But in the shadows beyond the firelight, a pair of alien eyes watched him. Eyes that belonged to Princess Ashera herself. She had come to see the creature with her own eyes. And what she saw shocked her. Because Rue bowed her head, not to her, but to the human, and that made her furious. The trial of fire and bone. The next morning, the jungle felt different. Birds stopped singing. The air was too still. Even the wind was silent, as if something important was about to happen. Daran stepped outside his hut and froze. Princess Ashera stood just beyond the clearing, surrounded by 6 tribal warriors. Each one carried a long silver spear, curved like a crescent moon. Their armor shimmered in the sunlight. They did not come in peace. Rue stood behind Daran, low to the ground, growling softly. Ishara raised a hand. Her voice was cold. You are raising a death beast human. Do you know what she is? Daran didn't move. She's Rue. She's mine. And she's no threat, unless you make her one. She is a Rakar, Ishara said. Our ancestors died to stop her kind. We burned whole forests to keep them from growing. And now, you've grown one. She's not like the others, Daran replied. She's learned mercy. Ishara stepped closer. Then prove it. She dropped a metal disc onto the ground. It opened, glowing symbols rising into the air. A trial of fire and bone, she declared. By our ancient law, 3 trials. If you survive, we leave you both in peace. If you fail, the jungle burns. Daran clenched his fists. What kind of trial? You'll see, she whispered. That night, the tribe gathered in the old pit, a ring of fire-lit stones deep in the jungle. It was a sacred place where laws were tested and fates decided. Trial 1. The pit of fire crawlers. Daran and Rue stood at the edge. Across the pit, alien fire crawlers hissed. They were like giant spiders with burning skin and sharp legs. Their touch could melt flesh. The goal was simple. Survive 5 minutes inside the pit. Ishara gave one last warning. This is where your creature dies. The tribe cheered. Daran looked at Rue. We go together, like always. They stepped in. The heat hit them like a wall. The fire crawlers began to move, sensing new prey. One leapt. Rue ducked, claws flashing, slicing off a leg. Another charged at Daran. He rolled aside, slicing with his knife, but the blade bounced off the creature's armor. Rue roared, not like before. This roar echoed through the pit, deep, ancient. Her body began to shift. Muscles tightened, her back arched, her fur shimmered with heat. She didn't just fight, she danced, with death. One by one, the crawlers fell, injured but not killed. Rue dodged their flames, used her claws to flip them, used Daran's voice as her guide. When the last minute came, the crawlers backed away. They refused to fight anymore. They had sensed something stronger. The bell rang. The trial was over. Daran fell to his knees, panting. Rue stood beside him, covered in cuts but glowing. The tribe was silent. No one had ever seen a Rakar show mercy. Later that night, Ishara sat in her tent, thinking. One of her commanders entered. You saw it, he said. She held back. Ishara nodded slowly. She is bonded. With the human? Yes, she whispered. The impossible has happened. Back in his hut, Daran cleaned Rue's wounds. He spoke softly, like a father would to a child. You didn't have to go easy on them, he said. Rue blinked slowly. She placed her head on his lap. For the first time, he felt something strange in her. A silent language. A feeling. As if she was saying, I fight because you showed me how. He didn't speak for a long time. At sunrise, the second trial would begin, and this time, it was not a fight. It was a hunt. Only one rule. The hunter becomes the prey. Daran and Rue would be set free into the jungle at night. They would be hunted by Ishara's elite warriors. If they were caught or killed before sunrise, they failed. If they survived, they passed. But what Ishara didn't know was this. Rue had already begun hunting them first, and in the deep jungle, something else was watching. Something older than even the Rakar. Something hungry. The hunt turns around. The jungle at night was a different world. No stars, no moon, just endless black between the trees. Every leaf whispered. Every shadow moved. It wasn't just darkness. It was alive. This was the second trial. The hunt. Princess Ishara had released 6 of her best warriors into the jungle. Their mission: hunt the human and his beast before sunrise. No mercy. no hesitation. This trial had no arena, no walls, and no timeouts, only survival. At the same time, Daran and Rue were set loose on the opposite side of the jungle. They were told nothing except this: you are now the prey. Daran's heart pounded as he moved silently through the thick vines. His eyes struggled to adjust. But Rue, she walked like she was part of the forest. Her golden eyes glowed faintly. Her ears twitched at every distant sound. She led him deeper into the wild. You know the jungle better than they do, he whispered. Let's use that. But Rue didn't reply. Instead, she stopped, slowly crouched, her body low, her fur flat. She smelled something. Blood, fresh. Daran turned and spotted a large feather stuck to a nearby tree. It wasn't from any local animal, it was tribal. One of the hunters was already dead. Somewhere else in the jungle, the warriors moved in pairs. One of them, Regil, knelt beside a disturbed patch of ground. They passed through here, he whispered. Hours ago. But his partner didn't answer. Regil turned. His partner was gone. Only his spear lay on the ground, broken in half. A low growl echoed behind him. Before he could raise his weapon, claws wrapped around his mouth. A voice, soft and deep, rumbled into his ear. Don't scream. It was the human, and behind him stood the glowing eyes of Rue. They didn't kill Regil. They left him tied to a tree, unharmed. But by morning, 5 of the 6 warriors would be found the same way, scared, alive, and silent. They refused to speak of what happened. Only one hunter remained. That last warrior was different. His name was Tazran, a loyal guard to the royal bloodline. He had fought in 5 jungle wars and killed many Rakar long ago. He carried fire spears, scent bombs, and electric traps. He didn't fear the dark. He welcomed it. He was hunting, not just the beast, but the legend, and he had orders from Ishera herself. If you see the creature's eyes turn blue, run. Daran and Rue hid in the branches of a large tree. High above the ground, they watched the jungle below. I think we've passed, Daran whispered. The others are done. Rue said nothing. Her eyes were locked on something moving far below. Tazran. He walked slowly. No fear, no sound. His body was covered in ash to hide his scent. His footsteps barely left a mark. He was the real hunter. Rue growled softly, but Tazran suddenly stopped. He looked directly up at them. He had set a trap. The tree exploded. Daran and Rue were thrown from the branches. They hit the ground hard. Daran's side burned. He tried to stand but felt his leg twist. Tazran stepped out from the trees, calm and quiet. He aimed his fire spear. Don't move, he said. Creature or not, I don't miss. He fired, but he missed, because Rue moved faster than any eye could see. She launched forward, not in anger, but in pure instinct. Tazran fired again. Rue leapt over the blast, landed behind him, and didn't attack. Instead, she growled and circled him, like she was waiting, testing. Daran, struggling to stand, yelled, Rue, stop! But it was too late. Tazran threw a flash bomb. It exploded. Smoke blinded everything. When it cleared, both Rue and Tazran were gone. Minutes passed. Daran limped through the trees, calling out, Rue, where are you? He followed broken branches, claw marks, and finally, blood, a clearing ahead. And in the center, Tazran. His armor was torn, his weapons gone. He sat on the ground, breathing heavily, and Rue stood behind him, alive, calm watching. Daran ran to her. Tazran looked up at him and whispered, You don't control her. She chooses you. Then he passed out. At sunrise, the tribe gathered again. The jungle drums beat slowly. One by one, the warriors returned, silent and shaken. Then came Daran. Walking beside him was Rue. No blood on her. No injuries. Just golden eyes glowing bright in the rising sun. Even Ishera stood in silence. You won, she said. But at what cost? Daran replied. No one died. That's the point. You think Rue is a monster, but she's better than most of us. Ishera's lips tightened. She looked into Rue's eyes, and for a moment, something in her changed, but she couldn't show weakness. Not yet. The final trial, she said. Tomorrow, the trial of the arena. Daran frowned. Another fight? Ishera nodded. Against the royal beast, our strongest creature. If she survives, you walk free. Daran touched Rue's head gently. She's not a fighter. She will have no choice, Ishera said coldly, because I will be watching, and so will the entire tribe. The princess's dilemma. The sky turned red as the final trial approached. Drums beat across the jungle. A crowd gathered near the old stone arena, carved into the heart of the forest. Fires burned in every corner. Warriors stood in silence. Elders watched from high seats. Even children stayed quiet, because this wasn't just a fight. It was history repeating itself. The trial of the arena was once used to decide the fate of kings. Today it would decide the fate of one human, and a creature once feared by all. Daran stood alone in the center of the arena. His shirt was torn. His ribs still hurt from the explosion the night before. But he wasn't thinking about himself. His eyes searched for Rue. She had disappeared at dawn. Not a sound, not a track. As if the jungle swallowed her whole. The crowd whispered. She ran. Even she knows she can't win. The bond was a trick. The human fooled us all. But Daran didn't believe it. She didn't run, he muttered. She's watching. Then, the gates opened, and the royal beast stepped out. It was massive, taller than 4 men, covered in black scale armor that shimmered in the firelight. Its head was crowned with bone horns. Its tail was lined with sharp blades. Its yellow eyes locked onto Daran, and it let out a low, earth-shaking growl. The Kravax, the strongest creature of the royal bloodline, born in chains, trained in war, and it hated the smell of fear. Daran stood his ground, though his legs shook. He had no weapon, no shield, just one small voice in his heart. Rue, don't let me face this alone. From the top of the stone balcony, Princess Ishera watched quietly. Her hand gripped the rail. Her heart beat fast, but not from excitement, from conflict. For the first time in her life, she questioned the old laws, the trials, the hatred passed down through generations. She had seen with her own eyes what the creature, Rue, could do. Not just destroy, but protect. Not just attack, but choose. She leaned close to her advisor. Do we really want blood today? Even if we win, what does that make us? The advisor hesitated. It's tradition, my princess, and tradition is not ours to break. Ishera's eyes darkened, but maybe it should be. Back in the arena, the Kravax charged. Daran rolled to the side. Dirt flew into the air. The creature struck the ground where he had stood a second ago, shaking the earth. He ran to the wall, breathing hard. Rue, where are you? The Kravax turned, sniffed the air, and roared again. It opened its mouth, revealing sharp teeth, glowing with chemical heat. Then it charged again. This time it was faster. Daran tried to run, but stumbled. His leg gave out. The Kravax was almost on him. And then, a flash of gold, a blur of motion, a scream from the crowd. Rue dropped from the sky like lightning. She crashed into the Kravax mid-air, slamming it to the ground. Dust exploded around them. The entire arena shook. For a moment, silence. Then growling. The 2 beasts stood, one of royalty, one of the wild, and they began to fight. Claws met claws, teeth met scale. Rue moved faster, darting, slashing, jumping. But the Kravax was stronger, its skin too thick, its attacks brutal. Rue was thrown against a rock wall. Blood dripped from her mouth. Daran shouted, You don't have to kill it, just stop it. But Rue didn't stop. She got back up, and something changed. Her eyes glowed brighter. Her back arched. A faint blue light shimmered across her fur. Her claws grew longer. Her growl deepened. Even the Kravax paused. And Princess Ishera whispered, "She's evolving." The final clash came fast. The Kravax leapt with a roar. Rue spun mid-air, claws glowing blue, and struck with perfect aim. She didn't go for the throat. She went for the leg, snapping its joint and sending the creature crashing down. Then, she climbed onto its back and let out a roar so powerful that the flames around the arena flickered. But she didn't kill it. She stepped off. She bowed. To the crowd, to the tribe, to the old laws. And then, she walked to Daran and laid beside him, exhausted, breathing, but alive. The arena was silent. Then, one by one, people began to stand. They had seen something no law ever prepared them for. Creature choosing mercy, a human earning its loyalty, a bond no tradition could explain. Princess Ishera stood and raised her hand. "The trial is over," she said, "and the creature has passed." Some warriors protested. "She should have killed it." Ishera looked them in the eyes. "If she had, we would have called her a monster, but she spared it, which means she's more than that. She's something new." She walked down into the arena, and for the first time she knelt before someone, not the creature, but the human. "I was wrong," she said to Daran. "We feared what we didn't understand. But now, we have no choice but to accept what you've created." Daran looked at her confused. "And what's that?" Ishera stood up, her voice steady, a new legend, the truth about Rue. The jungle did not sleep that night. The arena was quiet now, but whispers moved faster than the wind. Everyone talked about what they had seen, the royal beast defeated, yet spared, the death creature refusing to kill, the human and the predator standing as one. It had never happened before. In every corner of the tribe, the elders debated. The hunters questioned the old stories. And the young ones, especially the children, no longer looked at Rue with fear, but wonder. Daran sat beside Rue in a medical tent. Her side was bruised. Her breathing was slow. But she was healing. He placed a hand on her head. "You saved me." "Again," he whispered. "But I didn't raise a killer, did I? I raised something else." He didn't expect an answer. But Rue opened her eyes, and for the first time, Daran heard a sound, a voice, not in words, not in any language he knew, but deep in his mind. "You gave me choice." Daran sat back, stunned. She wasn't just learning, she was speaking. At the royal tower, Princess Ishera sat alone. The moonlight shone on her war paint-covered face. Her heart was heavy. Her father had died because of a creature like Rue. Her tribe's stories were filled with warnings. Never let a Rakar live, they obey no one. They bring only death. But now she had seen one kneel and speak. A guard entered. "Princess, the High Elder wants to speak. He says it's urgent." She followed the guard into the great hall. Inside stood the High Elder, surrounded by glowing scrolls, ancient records few had ever seen. He looked at Ishera with tired eyes. "You've brought the prophecy to life." "What prophecy?" she asked. He turned one of the scrolls around. It showed a drawing, rough and faded, a human, standing beside a creature with golden eyes. "A Rakar, born in fire, shall find peace through a voice not of its kind. Together they will end the bloodline war." Ishera stepped back. "This can't be real." The elder nodded. "We erased this part of history. We called it false hope. But it was always waiting. And now, the bond is real." The next morning, Ishera walked to Daran's camp alone. Rue was awake now, sitting tall, quiet as a statue. Daran looked up, surprised. "No warriors this time?" "Came to talk," she said. He let her in. They sat by the fire, For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, Ishera broke the silence. She doesn't belong to you. Daran frowned. I never said she did. She belongs to something bigger, Ishera continued. Something ancient, something my tribe wanted to forget. But we were wrong. She took a deep breath. There's another tribe, far to the east, the Vorak. They believe Rakar are gods, they use them as weapons. And when they hear about Ru, they will come. Daran's blood ran cold. What do they want? To capture her, or kill her. And if they can't, they'll destroy everything to stop her from uniting the tribes. Daran looked at Ru. She was calm, but her eyes watched every word. What are you saying? He asked quietly. Ishera stood. I'm saying, we need to protect her. Not because she's a weapon, but because she's hope. That night they made a plan. Ru would need to go with Ishera to the sacred mountain to awaken the full truth of her bloodline. Daran refused at first. She's not some tool, she's family. But Ru stepped forward on her own. She placed a claw gently on his chest. I trust you. Now let me grow. Daran knew then. She wasn't just following anymore. She was leading. At dawn, they prepared for the journey. But just as the first light touched the trees, a horn sounded, not one of theirs. A Vorak. Scout ship had entered the jungle. It moved fast, hovering just above the ground, made of black stone and glowing red lights. A message boomed through the air. Return the Rakar, or we burn your land. You have 1 hour. Panic spread through the tribe. Warriors ran for weapons. Mothers grabbed their children, elders looked to Ishera. What now? One asked. She turned to Daran. He said just 2 words. We fight. But Ru, she growled softly and stepped into the open. Her eyes turned blue, not golden, and the earth beneath her feet began to glow. Far above in the Vorak ship, the commander watched through the window. His hands shook. He turned to his men and whispered, She has awakened. The bond beyond blood. The jungle trembled beneath the sound of engines. Above the treetops, the dark shadow of the Vorak warship blocked the morning sun. Its red lights pulsed like a heartbeat. Warriors of the tribe, of fire dressed in black bone armor, marched through the trees. Their weapons hissed. Their voices chanted. They had come for one thing. Ru. Princess Ishera stood tall at the edge of the village. Behind her, her warriors prepared for battle. Some carried old energy bows, others held steel spears. The elders chanted blessings, but no one spoke of victory. They had never faced a Vorak army. Daran stood beside Ru. His hands shook, but his eyes were sharp. He looked up at her, no longer small, no longer gentle, but powerful and proud. Her fur shimmered with blue light. Her claws glowed softly. Her body was calm, but ready. You don't have to do this, he whispered. Ru didn't answer with words. She simply pressed her forehead to his, and Daran heard her voice. Not in his ears, but in his heart. This is what I was made for, but you showed me how to choose what I fight for. The Vorak commander spoke through a booming speaker. Return the bonded one, or burn with her. Daran stepped forward. Come get her. The warship opened fire. Explosions rocked the forest. Trees fell. Fire spread through the leaves. Villagers ran for cover. Warriors shouted. The sky was filled with smoke and screams, but through it all, Ru walked calmly toward the ship. Each step made the earth pulse. Each breath made her glow. Brighter. Ishera's jaw dropped. What is she becoming? The Vorak released their hounds. Giant beasts bred only for war. Their eyes red. Their jaws filled with acid. They rushed toward Ru. She stood still. Then she leapt. In one blink, she was in the air, claws flashing. Her body twisted mid-flight. She struck the first hound down with a bone-breaking slam. The second she flipped, onto its back, pinning it before it could bite. She didn't kill. She simply stared into its eyes and growled something deep. The hound whimpered and fled. The others followed. Daran, now holding a stolen blaster, covered the retreating villagers. One Vorak warrior charged him. Before the blow could land, Ishera blocked it with her blade. Side by side, the human and the princess fought back to back. "You're not bad with a sword," Daran said, breathing hard. "You're not bad with your mouth," she shot back. Inside the ship, the commander panicked. "This isn't the creature we trained against. She's too stable, too focused." A younger soldier stepped forward. "She's bonded, sir. That bond makes her complete," the commander growled. "Then break the bond. Kill the human." From the ship's upper deck, a sniper aimed at Daran. Rue saw it. She moved faster than sound. The sniper never fired. She crushed the barrel of the weapon, tore the deck apart, and stood face to face with the commander. He raised a plasma blade. She didn't flinch. "Fight me then," he spat. But Rue didn't attack. She let him strike. His blade hit her shoulder. She didn't fall. Instead, she absorbed the energy. Her body lit up, like a living star. And then she roared, not in rage, but in final warning. Everything stopped. Even the jungle seemed to pause. The Vorak soldiers fell to their knees, dropping their weapons, not from fear, but from understanding. She wasn't just a creature, she was the last hope of balance. Hours later, the fires had gone out. The warship was silent. The Vorak commander was gone, defeated but alive. The tribe stood in a large circle surrounding Daran and Rue. Princess Ishera stepped forward. "We came to kill her," she said. "But now we will follow her." She knelt. One by one, warriors knelt too. Not just to Rue, but to what she represented. Unity, peace, and power born from love, not control. Daran placed a hand on Rue's head. "You've changed them," he whispered. Rue blinked, her blue eyes soft. "No, we did." Weeks passed. A new home was built. Not a village. Not a kingdom, a sanctuary, where humans, Rakhar, and aliens from many tribes could learn from one another. The old stories were rewritten. Children grew up hearing the tale of a human who raised a feared creature, not to fight, but to choose. And the princess? She stayed, not as a ruler, but as a guardian and as a friend. One evening, as the sun set, Daran sat under the stars beside Rue. "You were never just a creature in a crate," he said. "You were a gift." Rue looked up at the sky. Her eyes now held galaxies.